In this chapter, we're going to look at preparing for Office 365. Of course, one of the first things to prepare is to, understand a little bit about it. I would assume that most of you are somewhat familiar with what it is, but we're going to take a pretty comprehensive look in an introduction to Office 365. And then following that, we will start working through the steps that we need to plan out a pilot implementation, and that's the initial implementation that then can become the production implementation. Setting up tenant accounts and that process, because it's a very critical process. It's very important to get everything right, and even then configuring a test lab. Also that you can deploy Office 365 in your environments and do so in an effective and efficient manner. But we begin with an introduction to Office 365. First, what is it? Well, it's Microsoft's premier cloud-based solution that offers software as a service, or SaaS, to organizations, really all shapes and sizes, delivering software directly to users throughout the world. This is, of course, the official speak of Microsoft, but software as a service is a cloud-based services model that allows you to access particular applications. Okay, so as opposed to, say, infrastructure or a platform, you're accessing a software service. You're accessing Outlook, you're accessing the Office web apps, you're accessing other pieces of Microsoft software without having to deploy them. You're paying a subscription service, a monthly subscription rate, and then you're getting access to these features. From a devices perspective, you have access using various methods of input. All the apps these days are becoming more and more optimized for touch. Microsoft has now apps for iPhones, for Androids, as well as Windows mobile devices, okay, so various ranges of smartphones. This is an Office on demand, and it's roaming, and it's able to keep up to date. And what we mean by that is essentially the cloud has a lot of advantages to it. And the fact that you're using a piece of software in the cloud means that Microsoft, when they update it, you immediately see those updates. It, of course, means also that you can access it anywhere that you are. And so that's the roaming part of things. And so really, Microsoft uses Office 365 sort of as a test bed for new features that they're going to implement in upcoming products. And so you're kind of on the cutting edge of all of those features. Also, you get to take advantage of enterprise level availability and standards. This is one of the huge benefits, especially for smaller organizations, because they could never even hope to implement the type of high availability that Microsoft's got behind the scenes of their cloud services. From a social standpoint, the social capabilities are pervasive across Office. That's an integration with social media, and so you can definitely link your Office accounts, Office 365 accounts, to social media accounts if that's something that's desired. From a business perspective, there is a social media component of Office 365 known as Yammer, and that allows us to set up a sort of an internal news feed, perform microblogging. Of course, integration with Link allows us to have multi-party HD video. We can federate with Skype, and so anybody with a Skype account then can be a part of that multi-party HD video. And from a control aspect, and this is where a lot of organizations would be worried, especially larger ones moving to Office 365, but you've got data loss prevention and compliance controls that are native to Exchange that are all available for Office 365 to control the data that's being stored for your users, control whether or not that's disseminated outside of your organization. That's all available, and you have unlimited e-discovery, archiving of Link information, archiving of SharePoint information, and of Exchange. And it's a consistent management experience as well across all of those different programs because you're using the admin portal in order to perform management. So a lot of different categories of benefits with Office 365. As a part of this introduction, we kind of want to talk about just a case for the cloud. The cloud is a term that gets used all over the place, and there's a lot of ambiguity built into that. It seems like maybe we're getting more and more familiar with it as a concept, but I know in originally a lot of people were fairly standoffish at this idea. And so exactly what is the cloud and why should we go to it? That's essentially what we want to try to cover. Well, the cloud represents the latest in technology evolution, and it's proved a resiliency, which means it's here to stay. It wasn't of some fly-by-night feature. No, this is going to stick around. And one of the biggest benefits of the cloud is that it levels the playing field between organizations of different sizes. It allows smaller to medium-sized organizations to take advantage of enterprise capabilities that they wouldn't have otherwise been able to do. We can have applications and storage as a service. We truly are able to have the whole you get what you pay for. Well, if you want more, pay more. I mean, it's that kind of mentality as I consume these services, platforms, applications that are being hosted by a particular provider. We have high-speed migration and the inclusion of additional technologies such as replication. The cloud gives us unprecedented levels of redundancy and availability. And it, because of more reliable, higher speed internet connectivity or internet bandwidth, then this becomes more of a viable alternative. If you have a terrible internet connection, then you're not going to want to move your data center to the cloud because you're concerned with being able to access that information. But in reality, the cloud is just the further evolution of virtualization technologies that have taken hold in the last decade or more. The cloud is allowing organizations to utilize technologies that they wouldn't have otherwise been able to do, and it's here to stay. And so for all of those reasons, I think organizations of any shape and size should consider at least moving to Office 365. Office 365 has some major components that are a part of it, and these are, of course, the components that we're going to talk about throughout this course. So we just want to provide a brief instruction here, or introduction here. Now, you notice at the core, we have Windows Azure AD. This is a version of Active Directory that is hosted in Windows Azure. It is your own identity, if you will. So when you establish a tenant account, it's creating an Azure Active Directory for you. As you create users in the Office 365 portal, or maybe through the directory synchronization tool, then those users are added into your own personal or individual Azure AD instance. And then those users are able to then take part in the various components of Office 365. And so, for instance, one of those is Exchange Online. This is Microsoft's premier messaging program, which is available in its entirety, really without limitation, although there are different tiered approaches to using Exchange, so you can have different limits for people. But you have access to virtually every part of what is now Exchange 2013. Okay. SharePoint Online, same thing, the ability to set up internal sites, project websites, corporate websites, and all of the various components that go along with SharePoint and easy access to those through Office 365. With Link Online, we have the ability to use instant messaging and audio-video conferencing in conjunction with our user accounts that are stored in the cloud. And then Office 365 Pro Plus is the entire Office application. All of the Office applications that you use on an everyday basis can now be available to you in the cloud. Each individual user that has an account in Azure AD would have the ability to install Office applications on up to 5 computers, or have the ability to utilize the Office Web Apps component, which allows us to just access an online version of the application. Okay? And as I said, there's going to be much more that we talk about for each of these components as we go along. There are some optional components that you have for Office 365 as well. Yammer is one of those. It replaces SharePoint's news feed as the primary enterprise social experience. It is essentially like a corporate Facebook, if you will. But the individuals that are a part of Yammer would just be individuals from your organization, possibly other connected organizations that were also in Office 365. We also have the option of using Microsoft Project. And there are three different varieties of that. There's Project Pro, which is the actual desktop installation that you can download and install on up to 5 machines. And then there's Project Online. Of course, there is the combo, which is both. For Visio, we have a Visio Pro for Office 365. For Microsoft Dynamics, you have their CRM program. So any and all of these can be purchased. Again, this is a kind of a pay-as-you-go, you get what you pay for model. So if you require some of those optional components for some of your employees, then you can certainly get those. Along with the individual components, you can choose the level into which you go with Office 365. Many choices are provided for organizations to enable the purchase of just what you require. So it is a true pay-as-you-go software as a service model. On premises, we have the ability to implement standard or enterprise versions of, say, Exchange, Lync, SharePoint. On Office 365, we have the ability to implement different approaches. The enterprise approaches are Plan 1, Plan 2. There are countless other approaches for small businesses and for governments, and you have different pricing levels. So people can get into Office 365 very low at $4 or $6 a month, or then you can be paying something more like $25 to $30 a month if you're on the enterprise, second tier plan. You can also buy individual products like Exchange Online Plan 2 and the other products left off, or implemented using a different plan so you don't have to get the whole collection of Office 365. You can get exactly what your organization needs. And as I said, that's one of the beauties of the cloud model. Of course, that can be changed down the road. If you need new technologies that you didn't need originally, you can just modify your subscription. We've already mentioned several benefits for Office 365, but let's go through some others. Generous usage rights is number one for Office 365 Pro Plus. Like I said, up to 5 applications can be installed per individual user account. Plus, you always have access to the online version of those apps. We do have advanced IT controls and configuration. You don't miss out on features and you don't miss out on administration by moving your systems to Office 365. You have the Windows Azure for AD or Azure AD PowerShell module. That can be used to automate installation, automate configuration of objects just the same way you would do it locally. And then we also have a simple yet powerful web-based management interface. Of course, that's the Office 365 admin portal. But in relation to some of the other products, you're going to have PowerShell capabilities for Exchange Online, for SharePoint Online, as well as for Lync Online. Truly, Office 365 does embrace the whole BYOD concept, bring your own device. Microsoft's definitely been trying to do that for several years here. Having a consistent experience across multiple devices is really what they're shooting for and have achieved. So we have support for various ranges of products and even centralization or centralized control and management of those different types of devices if you want to use their cloud service known as Windows Intune, which is their mobile device management product. You have reliable service levels. Those are backed financially with a 99.9% SLA, so they guarantee availability at that level, or else there are monetary reimbursements. And as I said before, continuous innovation and upgrades. You are definitely on the cutting edge. And sometimes we call the cutting edge the bleeding edge, because when we're implementing things for the first time, sometimes there are issues, and certainly Microsoft's not different from that. They're not excluded from that potential, but as new things are tested and validated, Office 365 users are going to be the first ones to be able to experience those new technologies. Now, the individuals who are making the decision to go to Office 365 may not care as much on all the technical details, and so the things that get an Exchange admin excited aren't the same things that are going to get a CFO excited. The person who's making the decision, the financial decision to go with Office 365 is more concerned with business reasons to go with Office 365. Well, one of those is that it's a subscription model. In reality, the pay-as-you-go model results in a more cost-effective approach to owning new technology. First of all, it's technology that is not even feasible for a lot of organizations. But secondly, you can just get those things that you need. Licenses can be added and removed as necessary. The Office 365 licensing is CAL-based, so it's individual clients, but then the Pro Plus is user-based, so you have 5 licenses per individual user. So you're going to get more for less. Also, the economies of scale. The economies of scale just really speaks to the scalability of Office 365, the fact that organizations can expand and expand. Within a single organization, you're limited in that. When you use the cloud, you're not limited at all. Scalability, without using on-premises equipment, it reduces waste caused by organizations going above and beyond requirements. So a lot of times in an effort to implement high availability and redundancy, we put too much in place. And we've got systems that are heavily underutilized, and so we spent way too much money up front. Well, with Office 365, you just simply don't have those same kind of issues. So all of those are good business reasons to move to the cloud. Some additional business reasons have to do with trust. Trust is provided by the Office 365 Trust Center, and Microsoft is essentially just providing a place where you can go to get information in a number of different areas. It's very transparent. Microsoft is very serious about the security of your users and your data. Microsoft realizes that this is a potential concern. This is one of the big concerns with storing stuff in the cloud. You know individuals probably, and you know organizations that simply the trust factor isn't there. And so for the non-technical individuals, this is one of the primary concerns often. Well, the Trust Center is just a one-stop shop to view transparent communication in regard to privacy, the transparency of Microsoft and their operations related to Office 365, the security of your data, the ability to maintain compliance with certain governmental regulations, as well as service continuity. Okay, and that's something that you can go and look at yourself. We should direct other individuals to that location. You can see all of the things that Microsoft is doing in these specific areas. Now, Office 365 is differentiated from other cloud-based services by Microsoft actually going out and seeking various certifications. And this is in an effort to essentially prove to their customers that they're serious about security. The Microsoft investment, the geo footprint, specialization in the field of data center administration far exceeds just about any organization going to Office 365. I mean, it's not even a comparison when you're dealing with small and medium-sized businesses, but most enterprises don't focus as much on the data center environment, the geo footprint, data centers around the world providing a high level of resiliency and redundancy. You just don't do it as much as Microsoft has. And so Office 365 has a number of different certifications that are listed here. These certifications identify their expertise in the area of cloud computing, in the area of data centers, and in the area of security. In addition to that, Microsoft also has structured Office 365 to meet the standards and requirements for compliance. Many organizations today are under regulatory requirements, and so compliance is a big and important thing. It actually occupies a lot of time, and in some cases, entire groups within the organization or individuals, that's their sole responsibility. Medical facilities, for instance, are under the governance of HIPAA, the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. You have the Family Education Right and Privacy Act, the Gramm-Leach-Bliley, which is from financial services. One of the newest ones for Office 365 is the Criminal Information Services. That one is available distinctly for what Microsoft calls their Government Community Cloud. And that's only for governmental facilities, but this is something that needs to be achieved at the state level for each state. It applies to those law enforcement agencies, and it's extremely important to them. And compliance with regulatory requirements like these is not just a standardized formal process like certification, but it is based on periodic audits that Microsoft is performing to determine compliance. So they are very serious in making it so that any organization can take full advantage of Office 365 without the privacy and compliance concerns.
Start with new learning now.